meant to bring my mining Sentinel conversions that I fully painted this week to show you, Nathan, but I totally forgot about it.
All right. Okay. Yeah, we're live.
All right, we're live. Welcome, everyone. From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed Factory. Hold on. Try that again. That almost blew my ears out. From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed Factory.
Why relate to a ship capacity?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Colin.
Andrew?
And we're back. Exciting couple of weeks. Lots of cool stuff happening. I went back to work. So that was fun. That's always a fulfilling experience. I found out during my convalescent period I have a bandwidth cap on my home computer, which I didn't know about and they didn't tell us about. But
Oh, that's fun.
yeah, well, I didn't get charged for it because I called and just screamed into the phone like a howling demon. Decided, okay, whatever. I can get it unlimited for more money, but it's like, how much do I pay for cable already? Let's just get this up to $500. Let's exceed my house payment. So yeah, whatever. I mean, the reason it happened was I watched, like, all I did was sit around the house for 2 weeks and watch movies and shit. So it's like, yeah, that uses up a lot of data. Apparently we've had this for a year and just nobody told me one. So I just now found out about it. So when convalescing at home, don't watch HD movies over and over and over. And yeah, like we got that Criterion collection. So let's watch 15 movies off there. Yeah. So that's what happened. But yeah, so that won't happen again though, because I just won't do that. All kinds of hundreds of DVDs here, so I'll just start watching old movies.
I can start sending you movies as well. Because I probably have plenty of shit you haven't seen. Just send it in postage and give you a nice stack of shit to watch.
Yeah, I got some
That
stuff.
would be more expensive than cable.
Yeah.
I watched the THX 1138, the George Lucas director's cut, where they redid all the special effects and everything.
Yeah.
Still a weird movie, but it's like, oh wow, that's that's a unique vision. I didn't see it going that way. But
Is that different than the cut you gave me to watch, Colin? The copy you
No, I think I gave you the special edition. I think that was the one they redid everything. Because there were some parts like, man, these special effects look really good. And you're like, oh yeah, they fucking redid them.
yeah, it's like this car chase seems really compelling. How did they do this? Oh, they did it in CG. Okay. That was always kind of a neat movie.
Yeah.
I've seen the original many times. It's like, there's a lot of ideas being thrown around here, but
Yeah, there's a
pretty
lot of ideas and a lot of like getting a lot of bang for their buck. Because like when you realize like how little shit they had to make that movie, like they did a lot with it. And and that like, when they climbs the ladder at the end, where it's like, oh, this is just a railway station that's being built, like let's just film him and pretend it's like a giant chasm he's climbing out of. It's like, that's pretty good.
it's a good movie. I mean, it's not like you're not drawn into the characters or anything, but it's kind of interesting.
There's that weird part where like he's like watching, like they have this entertainment just to keep the masses like at bay.
Yeah.
Just to keep them quelled, and it's just like, and there's like no line between sex or violence. It's all entertainment.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy's getting a blowjob, and there's a cop beating someone to death. It's like, it's all the same.
Then when you open your medicine cabinet, there's always a voice like, "What's wrong? Yeah. What kind of medicine do you need?" So yeah, it was a vision of the future, and then he had a jerk off machine.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, that's weird. and then you realize, oh, this was kind of a student film.
Yeah.
Sort of. I think there's an original, like there was a student film, and they're like, let's make this a more professional but low budget looking one.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did shoot one like while at USC that was more just like kind of a 1984-esque thing.
Yeah.
Didn't really have sci-fi elements to it. And then I think there was some sort of prototype where they were messing around with like special effects, and then I think Francis Ford Coppola threw him some money, and then they got some grants or whatever, and they made it.
Yeah. I guess that car was incredibly dangerous in real life. That was a super powerful car that the actors really didn't know how to drive.
Yeah, didn't they actually wreck it in the movie?
Yeah, because they didn't have stunt drivers. I mean, I think the guy who wrecked it was a stunt driver, but all the scenes where Duvall was seen in close driving, and he was really driving, and he was like, oh my God, because I think it was like a car with a Formula One engine in it, and a Le Mans type car with a weird body on it. And yeah, so that was a very dangerous car to drive in real life. Much like, huh?
That might be like one of those car, like F1 car, where it's like driving too slow is actually more dangerous than driving too fast.
Everything's just shaking around. I like it when the guy on, I think it was the American Top Gear, that Ford let him drive an exact replica of the original GT40 that won Le Mans when the Henry Ford II was trying to screw Ferrari over.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the original car. He did get to drive that. They let him drive it for 2 inches because that car is worth like millions and millions of dollars. They drive it, but they have an exact copy of it, and the engine is behind you. But there's not like padding or anything. There is a giant engine. Oh yeah. This is horrible. I can't even hear myself think. And it was like manual brakes, manual transmission, and nothing. It's like it was a 60s Le Mans. That's why people died in that race constantly, because they're just like driving the equivalent of a rocket. This is like that really doesn't stop or steer very well.
They're doing some guy. I can't remember. There's a director, a high-profile director, is going to do a movie about that.
Yeah.
Right now it's just titled Ford versus Ferrari, but it'll have some other title later on.
Yeah,
Rush 2.
FVF.
X versus Sever.
Adam Carolla's documentary was really good. Was that one, the 24-Hour War or something?
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I saw that mini one that the one dude did on Grand Tour, because he did like an episode.
James May. Yeah,
that one was pretty good.
They showed up in England, and Ford was like, "Make us a car that can beat Ferrari," and these engineers were like, "We don't know how to do that. Here's money, make it happen, but not too much money. Here's some money."
Well, yeah, it was interesting in the one he did. It was like you find out like how many failures they had, and then just like it kind of all came together at some point. Yeah. And he also didn't realize, like, because you always hear like, oh, it won Le Mans like 3 years in a row, but you didn't realize like, oh, they had 6 cars in the field and like 5 of them broke down.
Well, then, because Adam Carolla actually interviewed Henry Ford III. He's going to do all the Ford Le Mans. He was the guy who was a school teacher for years, and then he's like, okay, I'll go do the family thing now. And but he basically does all the Le Mans and all the hype about the new GT. And they were talking about how, yeah, the drivers, like there was one guy who was supposed to win, and the other good drivers were supposed to block people, cut people off, do things like that. But the first race, both the Ford GT both the drivers were in first and second place. And the one guy, they were trying to block a Ferrari guy, and he basically told the guy in second place, okay, drop back, block him. But 2 guys got past him that they knew couldn't get past the Ford. So it's like the driver was basically ordered to finish like 5th when he could have come in second, block the Ferrari driver specifically. Like, wow, that's hardcore. It's like, you just tell that, it's like, this is what you're going to do. Kill your family. I don't know. But yeah, that was interesting. I had no idea about that. I mean, I knew it was a big deal, but I thought Ford just showed up like, we're gonna do this just out of a spirit of pluckiness, but like no, it was deep revenge.
Yeah.
Which
Because weren't they gonna like? Wasn't Ferrari in some downturn and Ford was in an upturn, and they were gonna acquire them, and then
they were gonna buy. Well, they basically wanted to buy Ferrari and gut it. They wanted to take everything, and they wanted to make like super Mustangs and stuff, and then Enzo Ferrari or whoever it was just backed out of it, and Henry Ford, they call him the Deuce. He was not known for like being charitable with people changing their minds on him, and he's like, okay, we're gonna fuck these guys. We're gonna shame them in front of the world. Like,
what's the budget on that? Unlimited rage.
Hatred. But yeah, that was because where else did I learn about Henry Ford? You can read Iacocca's book, and then who was the guy who was McNamara? They talked about how he could just be a terrifying guy, like just someone who, like, just you think some people, okay, I'm done being mad. No, he just never stops being mad. But you have a lot of pressure on you when your name's Henry Ford II. It's like, oh, what can I do? But yeah, so that's anyway. Yeah,
THX 1138.
Yeah, talk dangerous cars. Yeah. Did you see the Uma Thurman crash video from Kill Bill?
Yeah, I saw that.
That looked a lot scarier than. It's like, oh, she just had a real full-on crash with that car, didn't she?
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't flip over or anything, but sometimes getting your body smashed into the steering console and the
some 1950s car that wasn't. It's not built to keep you alive. It's just built to keep itself alive.
We can mount cameras on this. What about the people driving it? Oh, if they wreck, they're fucked.
So I was like trying to explain that to some guy because, like, it was some show on TV called like Fireball 500 or something like that. Some old like car movie.
Yeah.
And he was like just trying to tell me how like old cars are like, they're better built than newer cars and stuff like that. And I was trying to explain to him like, well, actually, like newer cars, despite being smaller, are actually heavier than older cars. And the way they look like they disintegrate on impact is because they're diverting all the force around you rather than into you, like old cars do. Yeah. And he just wasn't having it. It's like, no, I can take that 1950 car and hit it, like not even a nickel dent on it. You could destroy these later cars. Like, you would also be dead.
Spine would be shattered, but it's like, well, how's the finish?
You'd be impaled on your steering wheel, but
yeah, your safety wheel, which is just a piece of metal, piece of steel encased in plastic that you can see. You can see it. And then let's put an inner horn ring in there, make it out of pot metal, which will shard into knives on impact. I know that old car suck, and the new car would run through one like it was paper. I mean, there's not a they wouldn't anything over 25 miles an hour. Those old cars would just, well, I mean, they were just a bunch of empty spaces is all they were.
Yeah.
It's not like those the between the frame and the fender. It's not like they poured lead or something in there. And plus, old cars sucked. I mean, if you have to, it's just like my car.
They look cool as shit.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, they did. Some of them did. Some of them didn't.
Well, it's those lines that, like, especially, well, I mean, like, I have affinity for like old muscle cars and stuff like that. But it was also just a lot, like any car from 1964 or in 1967. They're just like, you look at them like amazing, one of a kind, and then but then there's like, the weird period where a lot of safety standards came out, and like you look at those like 80s cars, like the 80s Escorts and stuff like that. They're just like square boxes with a weird rubber fender sticking out of them. It's just like, did all design just disappear in favor of safety? But now you see people like going back and like building these old like fender sets and stuff to put on those cars and make them look cool again.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's some good car. I like the what was it? The Lincoln Mark V, the one that Frank Sinatra, the 2-door one. It was a huge car. It was a 2-door, like a 2-door, but it was longer than a 4-door Lincoln. I mean, they had just gigantic motors in them too, like 500 cubic inch, 460 cubic inch big block. And this was before emissions. These were like in the late 60s. And yeah, those cars were cool. I like the Continentals from that era. The 60s ones were pretty cool, where the doors open backwards in the back.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, that stuff's neat.
Man, that's why they put it in the Matrix.
No, out they were driving was an old Lincoln.
Yeah, because they had the doors. They like all get out and the doors like split open like that, and everybody gets out in a cool shot and everything. So.
They could probably do that again. I don't know. I think the problem with those doors was
it was
they
some of the B pillar was like compromised, wasn't it?
yeah,
'Cause of
yeah,
how-
they'd fly off in an accident.
It's always good for pieces of the car to come flying. From the accident.
Well, also I think like in a rollover, the roof would pancake.
Probably.
Yeah, oh yeah.
No, I learned something about cars this week because I've been watching the Dirty Money miniseries from Netflix they put out.
Oh, that finally come out? Okay.
Yeah, because they had the first episode about Volkswagen and their clean diesel engine and how much of a lie that was.
Oh yeah.
And then finding out that it's not just Volkswagen, it's everybody that lied about them.
Yeah, they were just the ones that were caught.
Volkswagen was the most pernicious because they did it with passenger vehicles.
Yeah.
Everyone else lies about like trucks and semi trucks and delivery vehicles, but that's not as there's not like 10 million of those on the road. So
Well, that's the thing. They had like an interview with somebody in Germany because they were gonna do all of the German automakers, Audi, BMW, and everybody after Volkswagen tested, through the roof for all those emissions they weren't supposed to have, and they're like, it can't. If Volkswagen's lying, then is everybody lying? And then they couldn't because they have two kinds of. They have the on the treadmill testing unit, and then they have the mobile one, which beats the defeat device, and it can actually test for the real emissions. And there's only 4 companies in Germany that do it. None of them would touch it because then they would never work again in Germany because the car companies wouldn't hire them. So they had to drive to Switzerland to do it. And they did it, and they're like, all these car companies are cheating. They're all fucking rigging the system and making it so it looks like all their diesels are clean, even though they're not. And, they had this one guy that was like, yeah, I live in a pretty... because it was the guy that did the testing. I live in a really clean neighborhood in Germany. It's a lot of trees, a lot of parks. There's not very much traffic. There's not a lot of roads. And we tested for, what was the chemical? The main, besides CO2, which is a little...
Benzene?
Yeah, benzene. We tested for that, and it was like, it was higher than when it was allowed. And this is where children play, and we tested inside the schools, and it was even higher than on the street. Like inside the school and all this other stuff, and he's like, that's not good. It's like I don't know how he was like, you get those kind of levels when there's not that much traffic and it's a more forested area, but it's like that's what clean diesel or live clean diesel does, is all these people are going to die from heart disease and lung disease and all this other crap a lot sooner or more than they should. So,
yeah, well that's a little hyperkinetic too.
But what about biodiesel?
yeah, I don't know
That's what happens when you come up with unrealistic ideas. People that don't understand, again, thermodynamics. Just got to look at the limiting factor. If you want to move a ton of metal at this speed, at this rate, this is what you're going to burn to do it. There's no free energy exchange in this universe, so you can try to filter it. You can try all this bullshit, but it's in the end, it's all lies. And it's people that are wedded to impossible agendas too.
Well, the funny part was when they went the first time that Volkswagen was caught in their lie, I think it was CARB, which was basically short for like the California Air Reliance Board.
California Air Regulations
Yeah,
Board. I know about them.
But they tested the car and on just their little treadmill thing, and they found it was working just fine. And Volkswagen was even surprised because they're like, oh, the actual filtering device is actually working some of the time while it's on the road. We better fix that so it just shuts itself off when it moves because we don't want to damage the engine or the filtration device. And so they did that, and then it shows a Volkswagen ad right after that Well, it was like these two old ladies are in a car with another old lady, and it was like their really popular ad campaign in 2014 or 13, where it's like, "Shut your dirty mouth, Barb," or whatever, and then it was like, "I thought diesel was supposed to be dirty. No, this one's clean," and they have it idling in the driveway, and she puts her white scarf up to the tailpipe, and it comes back clean. I'm like, that's because you're not turning the goddamn drive wheel, Dolores. It's like the filtration device is rigged to fucking go off as soon as you because that's how they did the defeat device in theirs. Because the engineers were like, okay, if it's on a treadmill, then nobody's steering the steering wheel, so then that defeat device will be on and filter all the crap out of it. But as soon as somebody turns the steering wheel, it turns it off to not damage the engine. So that's why,
It's beautiful. It just, how did they get caught?
because the whole like mobile device thing. Because if you just had it running on a treadmill, which 95% of the people that tested it, like that's how you get approved for selling cars in the United States, is they just put it on a dynamometer and just like leave it on there, and then they just, oh, okay, that's what it is, and then they just allow for a certain percentage uptick for actual driving on roads for real conditions instead of on a treadmill. And so if you meet that, then you're
Why didn't they
fine.
buy up the mobile device companies and just put them out of business?
I don't know.
Jesus,
Because,
they're not thinking ahead.
well, no, there's like
Kill
apparently
that shit off.
apparently the University of West Virginia does a lot of that stuff. They like to tinker around with engines and do all these emission tests, and they had all these smart guys on from there, and it was really cool watching them work. And then just obviously CARB and some other air quality people that were doing those kind of tests. But it just looks like basically a giant generator on like a little platform on the back, and then a bunch of hoses sticking out of the exhaust going to different ports, hooked up to a laptop, and that's all it is.
Oh.
I'm not quite sure why, like in Germany, they couldn't replicate that without the use of another company, an outside company, and why they had to go somewhere else. But like it seemed like if West Virginia University can do it, and a bunch of other boards in different states can do it, why can't anybody do it if they hire enough scientists or people that know how to do it? So, but,
No,
yeah.
it's,
They don't got that car treadmill.
But it was funny though, because once they got caught, they apologized and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna recall all these cars," and they didn't use that opportunity to like actually try and fix the problem. They just doubled down and were like, "We're gonna make this defeat device even better. We're gonna make sure that it's even like 90% better than it was before."
All right, in the first 2 months of this car's life, defeat device works or doesn't work, and then it defeats the whole filter afterwards.
So that was,
yeah, that was, I remember reading about that. That was pretty amazing. I mean, that just, again, that's what happens when reality meets fantasy.
but no, because you're
Like,
talking,
yeah, we can burn this, this sulfurous byproduct, essentially kerosene with oil in it, and it won't produce any emissions. And it's like, yeah, bullshit. That doesn't exist.
But no, there was if you guys watched that, the guy that was head of Volkswagen from like, he used to be head of Audi before that, but he was head in thinking the late 80s to the early 2000s.
Yeah.
He looks like some kind of genocidal Nazi motherfucker because he like always has these like a weird hat on. He doesn't smile and he always stares and he talks like a serial killer. But
That
like,
sounds like a German.
He's not like a German.
well, I know, but like everybody else that's the head of a company that they interviewed or talked about, like they look like a normal person. But he was just like, yeah, it looks like he has about 10 bodies in the truck. He's driving around that jet or whatever. But at the same time, because my wife is like, he's really creepy. I'm like, I know, he does seem pretty creepy.
Yeah, you don't get to be the head of the company without a couple of bodies laying around.
No, he was actually fuck, what's his name? Porsche's second grandson or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So,
Ferdinand?
yeah, Ferdinand Porsche's like second grandson.
Oh, okay.
So it was like, oh, okay, I see where he comes from and stuff like that.
Diversity hire, no.
Yeah, diversity hire, exactly.
We have both young and old Nazis here. Both original and budding young Nazis.
Because they even went through the history of Volkswagen. It's like, it's really funny how they went from just basically a Nazi's like people's car to representing hippies and people that didn't want to be part of the culture, and then and then in the 80s and like early 90s being a pile of shit nobody wanted to drive, and then back to being the most popular car.
Well, they're the largest car company in the world. They're
Oh, I know,
fucking huge.
they have the biggest factory in the world, and that whole town's built around it. because they're driving through the town. It's like, does anybody?
Wolfsburg.
Yeah. Does anybody live here that doesn't work for Volkswagen in some way? No. Like, huge fucking town. Just everybody works for Volkswagen, either indirectly or directly.
Because what do they own? They own like Mercedes, Porsche. Do they own BMW as well?
No, BMW is family owned.
Okay.
I don't think they own Mercedes, do they?
I think they own Mercedes.
Well, they
So
might,
they-
yeah.
So I think, well, that's like thinking like what makes them so big is because like they not only service like Europe, but like they service basically the rest of the world with cars. That's what makes them so big.
And then they also have, it was Rolls Royce's Mercury brand, the more luxurious Rolls Royce.
Valhalla?
Bentley.
Oh, I was gonna
Bentley.
say, it's like there's a more luxurious
That's right.
Rolls Royce.
Oh yeah.
It's like, okay, apparently the rich people have somebody to look down on if they're even richer than those rich people.
Well, they don't. They're not the same thing because Rolls Royce is, I think it's its own entity now. And then the Bentley was sold to the, I don't know, the history of the British auto industry and how it merges with the European one is bizarre and yeah, I can't even put it all together because they were what was it, in the 70s they were like British Leland was the giant, and they owned like all the failing British car companies. They made like Triumphs and I think they had, yeah, now there's no British automobile companies.
Yeah, I think VW owns Mercedes and Audi. You'll have to look it up. They own a lot of
Yeah.
shit. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
really?
You're right.
That's all under that banner? It's like,
What about Lotus and Jaguar? Well,
Yeah,
Jaguar's
Lotus-
I mean, I don't know where they ended up.
Jaguar is part of Tata. That's
Is
an
that some
Indian.
Chinese? Oh, Indian. Okay.
Yeah, and so's Land Rover. But they're still made in England. We still make the engines for them. I don't know if that's still the case. I know when they bought them off Ford, the agreement was, well, can you make engines for us still? Yeah, okay. I don't know if that's the case now. Trying to think. Volvo is owned by Geely. Saab, I don't think they exist anymore. They're part of
No.
General Motors, and then they ceased to exist. And trying to think of who else Volkswagen AG owns.
You can look it up. You got a computer.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just spitballing here.
Oh, because I was trying to just think of any foreign car company.
Well, I think
that's-
Valhalla is a German.
Vauxhall.
Yeah, Vauxhall. And then Koenigsegg?
Koenigsberg.
Koenigsegg. No, it's like, fuck, it means like king in German or some shit like that.
Oh yeah,
Because
I know what you're talking about.
Renault is still around, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a French car company.
Yeah, it's
so-
French.
and
Koenigsegg, yeah.
I was like-
Koenigsegg.
What was the French car company where they made the weird cars that are actually very sophisticated? What were they called? The Citrons.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The old ones. I didn't realize how Jay Leno has one of those, and he was going through all the features a Citron has, and their suspension systems are just amazing. Like, because they're the little air balls, the little air cylinders that you can fill and let air out of, and but they're actually sophisticated little cars. I don't know about the new ones. I know that Citroen still makes cars, but I don't think they're just kind of like generically like every other car now. Because every car is essentially the same anymore.
Yeah, unless you're spending $500,000, then
Yeah.
You're basically getting the same American type model in most places.
I'm not sure how
It's just-
current this is. It says BMW owns Mini and Rolls Royce.
Oh, they own Rolls Royce now? I know they own Mini.
Where's
I
okay?
thought, oh yeah, oh no, Rolls Royce. Okay, there's Rolls Royce, the jet manufacturer, and then there's Rolls Royce, the car manufacturer. I forgot they're divested from one another now.
I was
This-
gonna
this
ask
says
if that Rolls-Royce jet engine thing was still a thing because I know during the
yeah,
war,
yeah. I
but-
think they still make jet engines.
Yeah, they're still around.
It's like
They
that.
make all the
that,
stuff for
that
Airbus.
It's like that and Pratt and Whitney still make like all the jet engines. Just like old fucking World War II companies. Volkswagen, it says here, Volkswagen owns Audi, Bentley, Bugatti, Lamborghini, Porsche, and Seat and Skoda.
Okay.
I've heard of all of them besides Seat. I don't know what the hell that
I've
is.
seen Seat before. It's
I've
but,
seen a Seat too. I'm
but
seeing one.
I think I've seen that in like a Forza game. I don't know if I've actually seen one.
You know
Yeah,
how
some of the stuff's like that European only shit. You can't drive this car in America.
This is here. Fiat owns Alfa Romeo, Chrysler, Dodge, Ferrari, Jeep, Lancia, Maserati, Ram, and SRT.
I didn't know SRT was its own company. I thought that was just a form of.
Yeah, Dodge SRT or yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Maybe it's like fucking who's the guy that does all the special editions for like Mustangs and stuff like that?
Oh, Roush.
Was it Roush? No, there's another guy.
The driver, Carol Shelby.
Shelby,
yeah,
that's
I was
it.
gonna say I thought it was Shelby.
Because he has like his own like kind of like sub company that basically just contracts for Ford to make like one-off cars and stuff like that. But
yeah,
Yeah,
my uncle,
he died a couple years ago.
oh yeah.
Carol Shelby did. He was the one that, like, at the end of his life, when he died, everyone was like, "So, what were your experiences with Shelby?" Carol was Carol, It's kind of he's a real asshole. Did his own thing.
It gave me a successful career, but I hated every moment of it.
And to look at the guy, but what can you do?
Yeah, I still like my Uncle Boss thing where he went to buy a Shelby Mustang and then he wrapped it around a fucking telephone because he drove it. So, good job. Yeah.
That's the
Memories.
best thing to do. Remember when I had that one car for about 15 minutes?
Yeah, he drove all the way, I think, to Virginia to get it, and then drove back here. I think it lasted about because his grand plan was to drive it in like out in the desert open races where you go across the country and shit and the highways, like race it in one of those. And he never got to do that because he destroyed it and then he killed himself afterwards. So that's what happens when you drunk drive enough. You can't have a license anymore. Apparently, you lose the will to live
All right.
or something.
Yeah, it seems about right.
Sorry. But
Yeah, I was just like reminiscing. It's like I want to drive from like coast to coast one day, go on the all-American road trip. And it's like he killed himself. I was like, oh, never mind.
Oh, really? How did his dream turn out? Tell me the story of success and hope. Oh, he just offed himself. Okay. So it's a great American story. The new American dream.
If you don't
The Great
succeed-
American Nightmare.
Well, what's the proverbs? You don't succeed, try again. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Something like
If
that.
you don't succeed, kill yourself. Like,
Sounds like a KMFDM song. If you don't succeed, kill.
Just some cartoon bitch in a dominatrix outfit. Yeah, this all makes sense now. Well, I didn't see this.
but no, I've been spending most of my week, or at least the last couple of days, doing stupid stuff. Is basically binging YouTube because I found these clips called "This Isn't Happening" or whatever from Comedy Central.
Oh yeah, the Ari Shafir.
Yeah, like probably the best one is Flying Dildos. Like that's probably the best one. The guy that's the machine. Like that's his story of going to Amsterdam and with some people backpacking and stuff like that. It's probably like the machine was fucking fantastic as a skit, but that's like just as good or even better. And then he has another one where he's fighting a bear, and that's pretty funny, but it's still not as good. Then there's Power of Love, which was really fucking good. About this guy getting so drunk he walks off a 3-story building and lives, and then he gets in a car accident right after that too, and still lives. And then he's like, "That was all to break into a Huey Lewis concert." But yeah, there's Ari Shafir where he's talking about he's switches apartments or used to do that, where he lived in New York and he switched people in LA for the last 6 months. And then he was like, "Yeah, I got fucked because like I had to babysit this dog I wasn't aware that lived there, and that dog just loves semen. Like he just loves semen. It's like I wanted to be a dog trainer, and I was gonna make that happen. It's like so, and like I just wanted to teach him to fetch, just simple thing, just fetch. And so I tried everything: the crinkle toys, tennis balls, that little fetch stick you put treats in. I just show it to him, and he'd be like, oh, cool, cool. And then I throw it, and he'd be like, you know you're getting that for me, right? And he's like, oh, so I was, hitting it out of the park with this girl for like 10 hours. Like, it could have been 10 minutes. It's like, dogs can't tell time. And then he's like, so I'm walking into the bathroom with this used condom and about to throw it away in the garbage in there. And the dog's really excited to see me, and I pay attention to what he's doing, and he's not staring at me, he's staring at the condom in my hand. And so I put it in front of him, and then he gets on all twos and like begs for it, and just like, please give it to me. And then he keeps following me everywhere, so I drain it out into the fetch stick, and then throw it, and he goes after it and can't even get traction. He's just burning rubber. And then it's like, after that, I jizzed on everything. But the important is, like, I'm like House. My methods are unorthodox. If he's like, you know what? I'm a dog trainer. It's like, and that was probably Kevin Smith's ones that just went up was really pretty good. Howie Mandel's is actually pretty good too, about him being a germaphobe and walking off the ravine in LA with his daughter and while he's trying to get her to go potty in the bushes and shit. Like, that was pretty funny. And there's Maria Bamford's one's pretty good because she talks about her being committed and stuff like that. Like, there's even like all the no name people, like, you would never, like, this is like, oh, this person's a world famous comic. Like, I've never heard of them. But some of them are pretty bad. Like, Nick Swardston's is really fucking bad. Like, he couldn't tell a story to save his life. But same time, there's a lot of good people.
Why?
Well, his story was like, he literally got, like, he went to like a CD release party in LA from this one chick he knew, and he invited a friend, and then his friend got super drunk and tried to grab her tits on stage while she's performing and stuff, so he got kicked out. And then he finds him in the casino with a hooker, and then he makes him go upstairs and be a responsible parent. Then he gets blackout drunk and falls asleep on the lawn outside of the Hard Rock Casino, and then he wakes up, and then he gets blackout drunk again, and he wakes up getting a dual blowjob from a prostitute and watching a midget fist somebody in a hotel room.
Jesus.
But it's like, none of that is funny at all because the way he tells it is just so crappy. like it didn't elicit one laugh, or at least for me.
I'm a professional comedian.
But I can't tell a story.
Ugh.
But no, I highly recommend at least watching Flying Dildos. I'm not going to ruin any of it because it's the whole...
Oh, I saw the one with Joe Rogan, the one with Joey Diaz.
Is Tom Segura make an appearance?
Segura, I'm sure.
Yeah, I like Ari Sharif's take from when he did something for Joe Rogan, the Holy Spirit one, where he's like this homeless fucking crazy guy that thinks he's God reincarnated, keeps calling him to be his lawyer. And it's like, we need to sue these people. We need to sue. And then he's like, I did that for 5 years. I just took his calls and pretended I was suing people, and then I reported on the progress of our cases and lawsuits. And then 5 years into it, I'm like, nah, this is getting old. So I stopped taking his calls, and I told him I couldn't be his lawyer anymore. And then he sued me. and then I look at the lawsuit, and it says $800 million. And then only got thrown out because the judge looked at what he originally wanted, and he said all the riches in the world. So apparently some Clerk County court person was like, that's not a real amount, so we need to put down a real amount. And he thought $800 million was all the riches in the world. It was like, so that was kind of funny.
I did see. I saw A Futile and Stupid Gesture.
Oh, really?
What's that?
That's the National Lampoon movie.
Oh, yeah.
How is it?
It's pretty good.
Is that one guy actually still alive, or did he actually... Because, like...
Okay, I am not going to spoil things for you, but don't look up anything about the movie. Don't look up anything about the history when you're watching it. Don't be like, that didn't happen, and look up the history. Because I think what they intend for you to do is, if you don't know too much about it, you're intentionally supposed to be misled.
No. I kind of
I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, it's with Will Forte. He plays the guy Doug. And how they started the National Lampoon, and like how that ended up becoming like the radio show and the movies and stuff like that. it's just a a movie focusing on that time period.
Oh, okay.
And the things around. I watched the documentary too, which has a really stupid name, which I'm guessing is a reference.
Yeah.
It's like I can't remember what's. It's like stone sober and something drunk, and it's like it's all backwards. It's like this must be a reference because this title's stupid. But it's
This is some in joke for the cool kids that I'm not going to get.
But yeah, that kind of goes more in depth to like all the stuff that of all of National Lampoon and the things that came after it and what it led to, and it had a lot of stuff about Jim Belushi, and like it's like now the Blues Brothers makes more sense because like he did a lot of like musical stuff because there's a thing they did called Lemmings, which was like a spoof on Woodstock. And the idea is that they all gathered together for this festival concert, and at the end of it, they're all going to kill themselves. And they showed like the stuff from that, and like he's doing all these musical impressions. Like, God damn, Jim Belushi's really good. And apparently, he was also like the producer of all that stuff. He's like calling people, like doing all this stuff. He's the director and all that shit of a lot of things. And then like it's him and Chevy Chase doing shit on stage, and it's like, oh, that's pretty. Because I also did the radio show, which is basically the entire first cast of Saturday Night Live was the National Lampoon radio show.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Apparently, like, at some point, NBC had asked them, like, hey, we want you guys to do an hour comedy show on Saturday night. And they were just too busy to, like, pick that up because they had, like, so many things going right now. Because they had the Lemmings show was, like a hit, like, a live, like, New York Broadway kind of thing.
Yeah.
They had the radio show, and then they also had the magazine.
The magazine was the one that had a picture of a gun to a dog's head. It's
Yeah.
like, buy this magazine or we'll shoot this dog.
Yep,
And
yep.
the dogs look nervous at the gun or something.
Yeah, because that's the weird thing is like I really don't all I associate National Lampoon with is all the movies.
Like, yeah.
Well, not really all the movies, pretty much just Animal House and Vacation.
Right.
Because somebody later on had took up the National Lampoon name and made a lot of terrible fucking movies. Kind of that post Van Wilder. Like, Van Wilder was alright, but then they really ran with that. It's like, we're going to just fucking bury this name in the fucking ground making terrible comedies. So that, yeah, like, I guess I more remembered, like, Mad Magazine more than I do National Lampoon. But like National Lampoon had like nudity in it and stuff like that, so I guess it was like kind of like no holds barred.
Yeah, I've seen a few of them, not many. The magazines.
So I'm guessing like, and it was really successful, but I'm guessing like Mad took a more sterile approach, and like as National Lampoon tried to get more risky, they lost like all their advertisers, and then I guess just Mad just like took over the market or whatever for humorous magazines.
Yeah, if you do stuff with nudity in it back then, you'll get the Legion of Decency after you and all that. And
they only got mad. I think that those people only got mad after they did something. They made a baby in a blender joke, and then they actually like superimposed like a baby in a blender. Like it wasn't on; it was just a baby inside of a blender. And so that incensed somebody who called up all their Christian friends, and they got all the advertisers ripped from their magazine. But that was like in the later days, with like. But I didn't know like PJ O'Rourke was like an editor, like he's like the editor in chief for a while in that magazine. Because I only remember him from like Bill Maher stuff. Like I didn't know what he did. His title's always like humorist. I'm like, I didn't know who he worked for or what he did. It's like, oh, that's what he did. Okay.
That's why he is a humorist.
But yeah, and they interview stuff with Chevy Chase and a bunch of other people. It's a fairly decent documentary.
Is that also on Netflix?
Yeah, it's also on Netflix.
I was gonna say,
As soon as you watch a futile, stupid gesture, that'll pop up in your feed. It's like, hey, you might like this.
No, it's like I want to watch the documentary now because there's, like, I knew like watching that movie, like by the end of it, I'm like, they're probably just fucking with us because there's, I mean, either they literally like got somebody just to pretend to be the guy to narrate and like, oh yeah, that guy actually fucking, did that.
I'll tell you that right now. The guy who's narrating is not the guy.
Yeah, I know.
He's just an actor.
But at the same time, it's like, okay. And then, like, some of the parts of the movie where I like when he, like, buys his parents, like, this big-ass mansion and, like, makes all this, but then him and Chevy Chase go out there to check it out or whatever and see how they're doing, and then, like, his parents say how disappointed he is in him, and then Chevy Chase is, like, getting back at his parents. So he, like, goes to the fucking wet bar, like, drops everything. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, my bad. And then
he's not getting back at him. He's just distracting people from his, like, oh, I'll do funny things.
No, I know, but it's like that fucking scene that movie was fucking hilarious because he just keeps dropping everything again and again. And he's like, oh, I'll figure this out now. And then he
so did you watch it or you just see the trailer?
No, I watched the whole thing.
Oh, okay. So he died, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I thought you said you didn't watch it.
No, I did.
Oh, okay. So now we can talk about it. Well, Nathan hasn't watched. Oh, yeah, but I guess I ruined it for you.
Yeah, that's what I was trying not to do, but thanks, Colin.
Go ahead. Talk about it.
You want to hear about the ending of Logan Lucky or Wind River? Or like any of the movies I just gave Colin to watch?
Logan Lucky. Why have I heard of that one?
It's the new film.
Steven Soderbergh did it?
Yeah, by Steven Soderbergh. It's a good heist movie.
It's got Channing Tatum, Adam Driver, and Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig.
He got a weird credit. He got like a featuring credit or something, or introducing credit or something weird. It's like Daniel Craig as whatever his character was. I can't remember. It's a really weird credit.
Well, it also has God damn it,
Seth
Hilary Swank in it.
Oh yeah. Oh, Hilary
and
Swank.
The guy who did Family Guy.
Yeah.
But he has like Jerry curls and a mustache. Looks really. I don't know why they went that way. Like he could have been an asshole and looked like himself, but apparently that just drove in the fact he was more of an asshole. Like
maybe he did. Maybe he wanted to like not look like himself and try to be more of a character than. It's like, oh, that's Seth MacFarlane.
Well, that's the thing. Like he kind of has a British accent, but otherwise, there's no difference. So I don't know.
And I also watched all of Altered Carbon.
What'd you think of that?
That's pretty good.
You do a pretty good job. I haven't watched any of it yet. I intended to, but
I watched. I saw a bunch of stuff before I watched it. I saw a bunch of stuff on Twitter, and people were like getting mad about it, and it's like talking about like all these unnecessary changes they made. And I watched it. And I was like, yeah, that's about everything I remember about it. That's pretty cool. So like I forget so much about Altered Carbon. I remember like all the broad strokes.
Yeah,
but I forgot. I like the stuff with the AI hotel.
The Hendrix, yeah.
Which I was watching it. It's like I vaguely remember that being in the book, because the hotel is called like the Raven. And it was like I think I remember that from the book, but I don't remember like the AI hotel being like, helping them investigate stuff.
In the book, the hotel was the Hendrix, and it was the AI was Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Here they call it the Raven, and he's Edgar Allan Poe.
No, yeah. Well, they probably couldn't get the rights to use Jimi Hendrix's likeness.
Yeah, he looks like Paul F. Tompkins, basically. If you know who that is.
I think I do.
And then I don't remember anything about. Was there a sister rivalry in Altered Carbon? Like she's being the ultimate bad person or whatever?
I don't remember that. Who was this?
It's his sister.
Oh no, I don't remember that.
Okay, so that must be something new. And then they dive into like, and I don't know about like, because they talk about Quellcrest Falconer.
Yeah, she's the neo-Maoist. She pops up in all the books. There's quotes from her.
They like go here. They talk about like her being like a revolutionary because she's trying to kill off all the technology that makes it so you can just be immortal essentially. Like she's trying to stop that, but then everybody got killed doing that. That's what I'm not sure if that was a part of the books or not.
No, the Quellists were in the books, but they were more like they were like neo-Maoist, or like they didn't like the economic system.
Yeah.
Like being exploited and stuff. They weren't trying to destroy the that whole system.
Okay.
They would have upset it because it's all dependent on money to back up body and all that. But yeah, they didn't like being slaves.
And then I'm not sure, but here, I'm not sure if this is in the books or not. But they talk about how they discovered some aliens, and that's how they got the whole stack technology. Was like from they discovered like ancient aliens or whatever.
Well, no, they did discover ancient aliens, but they didn't know the aliens apparently didn't have that technology.
Oh.
But see, in this universe, nothing goes faster than light. That's why that technology was invented, because you could send ships on long voyages and clone people and then shoot personalities into them from because apparently you could shoot like communications faster than light, but you can't do ships.
Yeah.
And when you found the aliens, it's like, oh, these ships aren't capable of faster than light travel either. How did they do whatever? Because the aliens, they could never really understand. They couldn't even understand their language because they were extinct, of course. But that, yeah, they have to make those changes for TV.
But yeah, I really liked it. I'm just curious what they'll do next. Like if they pick it up. I know it was really expensive. I read some article on the AV about how like the new Cloverfield movie like essentially like destroyed all the advertising momentum for Altered Carbon. So they're like talking about like, well, Altered Carbon sacrificed on the altar of Cloverfield.
Yeah, and I heard that's a real piece of shit. So
it's all right. I don't know why everybody hates it so much, but it's like if you were compare all the Cloverfield movies, like yes, it's the worst Cloverfield movie, but there's some interesting things in there. But I guess I guess it was just kind of a it seems kind of a lifeless hatchet job.
Yeah.
Like apparently this movie was just a different movie called God Particle.
Right.
And then like they bought it, re-edited, shot some stuff to make it a Cloverfield movie.
Sounds great.
Yeah, because this was actually shot at or before 10 Cloverfield Lane. Like it goes back a ways.
Yeah.
But
it had like originally had nothing to do with Cloverfield.
Right.
But there's some like interesting scenes in there. I was pretty much just like, some weird shit going on, but pretty much like as it was going on, I guessed everything that was happening, and like it turns out to be exactly what you think it is. But it looks neat. I don't know. There's a point there where it's like it has this kind of alien feel to it, where it's like oh shit, is this gonna turn into aliens? And it doesn't. And I kind of appreciated that, but
yeah,
I think some of the special effects were kind of neat, but yeah, the cast is kind of weak. There's a lot of stuff that gets shoved in there that's like, only thinking about afterwards after I knew this is like, oh, that's why that was there. That's purely to be the Cloverfield connection.
That just got horned in there. That's why it seemed odd, huh?
Yeah, I can't name one movie that it literally was shot as another movie, and then they just edited and put some new shit in there to make it an entirely different movie.
Oh, sure you do. Kung Pao, Enter the Fist. Remember that movie? The guy who he took some like incomplete kung fu movie and he CGI'd himself into the movie.
Oh,
I do remember hearing about that.
The one where he does the Matrix joke with a cow shooting milk at him, and it's really stupid.
No, I saw it once. I can't say I'd ever want to see it again.
The trailer's terrible, but like the movie's really interesting to watch. It's like I remember being like kind of appreciating it for what they did. It's not like a great movie, and there's like a couple jokes that work, but I do appreciate that's the effort to do that.
No, I know there's other stuff like C-Lab 2021 where they basically make that out of a fucking defunct kids show that lasted for like a season in the 80s or 70s, and then made a hit fucking comedy show out of it for how many seasons on Adult Swim?
That's
5
7,
or 6, something like that.
Yeah, maybe 6.
It's there's people that have done stuff like that, but at the same time, it's it's few and far between. It's not everyone's a hit genre.
No, but
I mean, it's the same.
Oh, did you hear that the guy who did that's kind of off topic, but did you hear the guy that did the soundtrack for Sicario and did the Blade Runner soundtrack, but then they brought in other people and they did a different one? You hear he died today?
Yeah.
He was 46.
Yeah.
What happened to him? Did they say?
I didn't see any of that.
Oh, that was kind of weird.
There was also an actor like if you showed him your face, like that guy, he died. He was like 47 or something like that.
Huh.
He died recently. He has been in House of Cards. I think he's the guy who's like makes the he's like the cook that makes like I want to say he's like the I can't remember. I want to say he's the cook that makes him the baby back ribs all the time, but I can't remember if it's that guy or not.
Was he in anything else besides House of Cards?
He's in The Wire.
Besides, like,
Oh. Yep. Reg E. Carthy. He's dead at 59.
Oh, okay. Guess he wasn't 40. Still, you know.
Aaron Paul had a kid.
Oh. And
Let's
Rob
see what-
Delaney's kid died. That sucks. Oh, wait, no. I said Delaney. Is it Mulaney? No, Delaney.
Yeah, Delaney.
Yeah. Which I don't know why that's like a news article. That's do you want to feel bad? We want to broadcast someone else's pain to the rest of the world.
Yeah. It's terrible.
Yeah, it was cancer too, I think.
Something like that.
The fuck was it? Yeah, Altered Carbon's pretty good.
Okay. I'm going to have to check that out.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see like what they're gonna do next. If they're gonna follow the books or like keep it on Earth. It's like because you spend all that money, you might as well refresh some of your budget and I could see them doing more stuff on Earth because like all the other books are on different planets, so that'd be kind of like either easier or harder to make.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, like I said, they could always do it every iteration. They could do with a different cast, essentially.
Yeah.
so what everybody think of the Venom teaser trailer, or as I like to call it, the long shot of the Golden Gate Bridge?
Yeah, it was a big nothing trailer.
Yeah.
That's a Tom Hardy movie.
Yeah.
Now, what's Venom? Is that like the bad guy from Spider-Man or something?
Yeah,
Kind
bad
of.
guy / anti-hero.
There's some weird alien symbiote thing it first came on like the Spider-Man, and he became like sort of like this aggressive, almost evil Spider-Man, and then he like gets near a bell and the thing falls off him, and then it attaches himself to an astronaut, and then he becomes kind of like this overly aggressive, not really evil because they eventually make him kind of a superhero that's just kind of like an anti-hero.
Yeah.
But I don't know, you've actually read comic books with him, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, he's kind of like a special agent attached to a paralyzed guy, and then he's also in, like, Guardians of the Galaxy, and also, in, like, just, yeah, he's more of an anti-hero, like, Carnage is more the villain off of that, and I don't know if they're going to go with that. I don't know who necessarily, if it's just a character study movie, comic book movie for Venom, or if it's going to actually have a villain, because it seems like Venom was... I mean, I don't really know the backstory enough to know if he was ever really in San Francisco a lot, or if they're just setting it there, so they have any quandaries with anything going in New York for Marvel.
Yeah, I think they're just giving it its own place or something.
It's like in Tom Hardy.
Although, like, yeah, it's like if it's not in New York, it's in San Francisco. It's like there's only 2 movie locations in any movie.
Only 2 good places in America to shoot a movie.
But between that and the Towering Inferno remake that is the new Rock movie that looks horrible. Like, I can't remember what the hell they called it. It was like Skyscraper or something.
Oh,
like that.
yeah, okay, yeah.
It's like...
Or use the fake leg.
Yeah, it's Towering Inferno, but it's just fucking modernized and called something else. So it's just not O.J. Simpson in the lead role anymore.
Well, that other shitty movie he did's not even out yet.
Rampage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Based on a video game.
I still can't believe he made that fucking movie either, so I don't know.
Well, apparently, that whole crew is from the San Andreas
Yeah.
crew.
Yeah, I kind of figured it looked like kind of like the same feel as that movie, because that movie is pretty fucking bad too. It had some pretty okay moments in it as far as like, oh, that's kind of a cool idea, but then it was pretty bad still on top of it. Yeah, I'm hoping he's not running for president still, because thank God Oprah Winfrey's not anymore. So if he would drop out, and then God, who was the other celebrity that was thinking about it? Fuck, with somebody else, I can't fucking think of their name.
No, but those celebrities, like, legit. Well, I don't know. I guess I can't say that.
Remember, we had Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, that was enough celebrity presidents.
Yeah, enough of that.
Just like fucking Trump's whole
Well.
military parade thing now. Like, I want to be a dictator.
Is that real?
Yeah, he wants a military parade.
Yeah.
That's
Pentagon-
not a. That's not like.
The Pentagon is going full steam with it.
Also, are you just a fucking banana republic now? Is that what we're doing? Have missiles running up and down the
Well,
street?
supposedly during his inauguration, he wanted it militarized. He wanted a military parade during his inauguration.
Oh,
They
this
shot
is
it
good.
down right away.
Scarier and dumber every second.
It's funny because a lot of my coworkers, because they were talking about this is before the whole military parade thing this week, because somebody was like, "I hate how they keep bashing Trump. Like he does want to improve, you know, especially this year he wants to improve things." I'm like, "Yeah, the 2 strokes off his golf game." Like, it's like I don't know what else he wants to improve, because this whole boast about like, "Oh, I boosted the stock market, the economy's doing so great." In the last week, the stock market's plunged more than it ever has in the last, I don't know, like 40 years.
Well, that's because it's been at the highest it's ever
Well, I
has,
know. I
but-
mean, it had to go down. It couldn't
Yeah.
just keep going up.
No, the scary thing is we don't. There's not really reasons why it's like going down right now. It's just like, oh, they found out how it's all propped up on bullshit and everyone's selling right now. But they haven't told us what the bullshit is yet.
Yeah.
It's just
Student
another
loan.
student
Student
loans.
loan.
Probably the housing market again.
No, the student loan thing's a zit that's been gonna pop for a long time, and yeah, because a lot of these people getting out of college now, you know, they getting jobs for like $40,000 a year, and they have $150,000 in student loan debt. It's like, yeah, they're just gonna default on their loans. They're gonna eat, they're gonna have a place to live. So, I mean, I hope that doesn't. I don't want to go through any more economic collapses like that, but. Yeah, I don't know. And then I've heard that it has something to do with China, like because China's like really devaluing rapidly. Like
Yeah.
they're playing around with their currency, but I don't know what that. You know, you never know.
Well, like classically, it's like everybody borrows from China, but I guess China's been borrowing from other people recently. So
Yes. And then the Saudi Arabia is going bankrupt. That's why there's been so much civil unrest in that country. That's why they've been arresting. Remember the guy that arrested the new king had all these members of the royal family arrested.
yeah.
It's just eliminating heirs, keeping people's hands out of the pot because they can't. Because Saudi Arabia made a deal with their citizens. It's like, well, you won't have any rights and you won't be able to have a voice in the government, but we'll just lavish you with things. That's how we'll keep everyone happy. Well, that they can't afford to lavish free shit onto anyone anymore. They don't have an economy outside of oil. It's not like there's like a great Saudi tech giant out there. Terrorism isn't really something you can trade on the stock market, so they don't, can't
Not
cap.
yet.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there was a Vox News story about the new prince and stuff like that, and why he's doing certain things as far as letting women drive now, and doing the whole, because half the country is propped up on you let the religious right do their thing and they can police people and keep everybody in check, and they'll legitimize the government and make it so like, oh, God backs them, so be careful what you do against the government, because then you're going against God kind of crap.
Yeah, that's
And
what they
so-
want to do here.
So far, it seems like it's overwhelming success. Because according to all the dumb
Hey,
shit-
remember, everything works until it fails.
Well, I found it the other day in one of my classes that there's a correlation that you can follow. Where it's like the higher the GDP of a country has, the lower people believe in God or have religious beliefs.
Yeah,
It's directly like it's like as this goes up,
inversely proportional.
except for one exception,
Yes. Good old-
America.
we always seem to be the one exception.
Well, of course, we have the biggest wealth inequality in the world, don't we?
Yeah.
Isn't the gap between the richest and poorest here like bigger than even in third world countries? Because some of the richest we have here, like,
Well, didn't Jeff Bezos just become the most richest person ever to have lived?
Yeah.
he's the richest man alive and the richest man that's ever lived. I think he surpassed John Jacob Astor.
He needs to build a rocket to go steal Elon
This-
Musk's Tesla.
Plunge it into the sun. I am God.
But no, yeah, there's a huge income inequality gap, and it only keeps getting worse. And I don't.
Well,
know.
yeah,
Yeah, I like
elected president. Like, yeah, this is gonna improve.
well, I like all these news stories, like written in magazines by people in their 60s and their 50s, complaining about how millennials aren't buying enough houses, nor are they having enough kids.
Yeah, I love that. I like that too. It's like, well, dumbass, hadn't fucked them, fuck the whole generation. Like, well, you don't need pensions. We're gonna vote all this shit away.
Yeah, you don't need affordable health care. You don't need pensions. You don't need affordable education. You don't. You don't need rights. You can just-
You're lazy. You're not fucking enough and buying enough McMansions on $25,000 a year jobs. And well, it's like Harley Davidson. They laid off. They closed one of their plants this week
Oh,
really?
because their sales are down 85%.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's terrible. But no one can afford that shit.
Huh.
And that's a young person's thing, is like motorcycles and shit. That's usually what young people buy and midlife crisis people, but more young people. Guess what? Young people don't have disposable income anymore because they don't get paid shit. They got huge fucking debts. If they were lucky enough to go to college, they got huge debts. And yeah, they're not buying $40,000 motorcycles. They're lucky to keep the lights on. And they say that, and they said that's exactly what's going on with Harley Davidson. They're going to be the first casualty of this underclass of poverty we've created in this country.
Yeah,
By
because
far.
I mean, especially when I must be doing really well for a millennial because I only have like under $8,000 in credit card debt and under combined with my wife under such and such amount of debt otherwise. But like, yeah, I've struggled a little bit to do things the last couple of months, and now we finally have an influx of money as far as like cashing out certain things and able to pay off some bills and finally be more steady. But at the same time, it's like the only thing I'm missing from the I'm a shitty millennial is I don't have any kids. But I have a house, I have a brand new car, I have things I probably shouldn't own for the sake of just not having wasted money on them. But like I'm trying
I sometimes I can see that, but then because I hear this stuff like you should save more money. It's like, so what you're telling me my weekend should consist of staring at the fucking ceiling, sitting around worrying about how much money I don't have to this ripe old age I'm not gonna live to retire. It's like, yeah, go fuck yourself. How about that?
Yeah, I know. It'd be nice if we could just pass the time and enjoy staring at the wall and saving money, but unfortunately that just doesn't seem to be how it works.
Oh, I never got that whole
Oh
concept.
no, you just go to the library to stare at the wall.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
watch homeless people jerk off. It's like, well, I'm horrified, but I'm saving a lot of money.
I could read Harry Potter, but this guy over here is jerking off, praying to God at the same time.
Yeah, but even even our public library is doing shitty now.
Is it?
Yeah, I just read an article in the paper on Friday that attendance is down by 15%, and they're gonna try and cut their budget and all this other stuff because traffic's way down and people aren't going there anymore and nobody's.
Yeah, because I got 3 books you want to read. It's like, yeah, hey, when's the new Stephen King book coming out? Oh, we're getting 4 copies next month. Oh, cool. Can I put my name on the list? Yes, you're number 597 on the list. Oh, okay. Well,
That was something I was. Well, I
Kindle,
can't-
here I come.
I mean, it might be different from a different world trend or whatever, or I guess not a United States trend. But I hear like attendance is up in libraries, like other places at least. And they're citing like millennials as a thing. It's like we can't buy anything, so they're just going. But because like libraries are a lot cooler than like a library when you were a kid. It was just books and maybe a computer, and then maybe they had some programs where like you pretend to read a book and then you get a coupon to get a small pizza at Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
But now you can like fucking rent video games, DVDs, like audiobooks, comic books. Like there's a lot of cool shit at
Be
the
on the
library.
internet all day, rent
Yeah.
a meeting room to like go talk to people and do projects with and stuff. Like you can do a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, they even talked about like they literally tracked everything they do in the library and how far it was down. They're like meeting rooms are down 5%, internet usage is down 2%. Like everything was down. There wasn't one category that was up. And the person that was the head of the library for Cedar Rapids was like, I think we need to combat this by, one, increasing our budget for new periodicals and new books, and we also need to stay open longer and have better hours. Because I guess they was like, oh, we're just not catering to the people that would really like to come here, which is the people that work 9 to 5 and can't make it here on time after,
Yeah.
you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
they would like to come here, but they can't because by the time they get off work or do their thing, they can't get here during the week.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, I mean, that did make sense, and I'm all for keeping the library open because I like
24-hour library.
Make sure you see people jerking off and taking a shit in the middle of the room all the time.
Well, that's what happened, sadly, because we have a great library here. I don't go to it anymore, but we do have a great library here. But yeah, during the economic downturn here, because they were doing like our library, I think Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it was open until 10 o'clock. Like they did stuff like that, but it just turned into a fucking gab fest for weirdos, homeless people. It's like, hey, it's not cold in here, you know. And they have like 50 computers, and good luck getting on. Like, you better be there at 8 in the morning when they open, and get on that computer because
and start jerking off. That computer is yours.
Be at half chub before you sit down, otherwise you're not gonna...
You have to mark your territory.
Yeah. So that's what our library just turned into this. That, and people were stealing shit like constantly, like any cool, like they get cool series of DVDs in. Yeah, and I can understand the mainstream stuff that people want to see, but like there was some BBC stuff they had. It's like, oh, that looks interesting. Hey, where'd that go? Oh, it's missing. It's like, really? Who stole the fucking Sherlock Holmes from the 1970s BBC series from the library? Like, I don't see that flying up on eBay.
Why did you steal this, sir? That's what my drug dealer wanted.
With very eclectic tastes, my heroin man. So, yeah, like I said, I haven't been down there in a long time because it was just depressing.
I mean, there is a movie coming out. I can't remember who's the main star in it. I think it might be. God damn it! It's basically about homeless people like taking over a library and like police trying to like raid and kick them out. And it's like I think it's actually like a Scott Ridley movie. So
Ridley Scott?
Not Ridley Scott. God damn it. Scott Free Productions.
Oh, okay. So Ridley Scott. Just not directed.
For some reason Ridley Scott sounded wrong in my head. I don't know why. Scott Ridley, that's his name.
Ridley Walker.
Ridley.
But,
Scott Ridley.
Tony Ridley.
I'm seriously trying to remember the main actor now because it's like I know who the fuck he is. I just can't think of his fucking name.
My mind just went immediately to Will Forte because it's like homeless person, yes, Will Forte.
No, because it's like the librarian like siding with the homeless people and being against the cops and stuff like that. Because I can't remember what city it's in. It's a cold weather climate city, but it's basically like the same problem like Nathan's talking about, where
Milwaukee?
the library stays open late enough at night that the homeless just sit in there all day, and then they get kicked out, and then they're like, oh, there's no fucking shelters, there's no warm places to go, so can you just let us stay here? And then he sympathizes with them and lets them take over the library full time or whatever, and shower and sleep in there and all this other crap.
I remember we had a sketch we never got to film because it's a bit too complicated for the Gangrene show that never got made. It was Hobo Cop.
Oh.
Hobo Cop?
Yep.
Dispensing street justice?
Yes. Well, like, yeah, the ultimate, because I had like weird commentaries throughout all Gangrene where like, because it all like revolved back around to like the military industrial complex and like some weird social science project to see like how we can fuck people over for more money. So it's like, it was like, what if we can just convince homeless people to take over the law enforcement of a city merely for pride?
I think you get some people to sign up.
And I remember like the like car chase would eventually be, it would just be two people, one guy in a cart, the other guy pushing the shopping cart. You have two of those people, two shopping carts, and then they're just chasing each other and firing guns at each other. And that's the car chase. And like the CSI guy he just used various forms of bread and peanut butter to like lift like fingerprints from things.
It's like, oh wait, that was my sandwich.
Yeah, and the weird shopping cart guy's one-eyed dog is like their canine.
And when they do a stakeout, they just fall asleep at some guy's house.
Yeah, just a bunch of people laying around.
Funny if their crime lab's like a fucking dumpster with like a broken computer and a test and like a beaker in it.
Yeah, see, HoboCop, it just writes itself.
And then we get sued by like the fucking like rights for homeless people, like quit picking homeless people as horrible people that have like nowhere to go. Like,
No, they're the only people stopping crime in the city. They just don't, and they also just don't have the capacity to stop white collar crime, so that runs rampant. They can only stop low rent crime.
Oh, this is actually becoming a real thing. I'm kind of heading towards this.
Hobo cop, where every cop has a drinking.
Hobo cop.
Do you have a drug, alcohol, and/or mental illness? No.
Then you can't join.
And they hand them drugs. Do you have?
Trying to think how internal affairs would work there. Is like the best dressed hobo is internal affairs, or I don't know, like trying to think of like SWAT. It's just people like dressed up in tinfoil.
Internal affairs would just be like cats.
We don't understand them, but they have power over us.
And they just piss on things, and they just make everything more worse. Because, God damn it, you piss off internal affairs again.
I think it'd be hilarious to have hobo cops. So like every time, like they literally everything else they do, like except for when they take criminals back to the police station. Like the police station is like the newest, most nicest, cleanest modern building in town, but it's just completely run by hobos.
How do we afford this? We don't know.
Like a complete disparity between the
well, like
cops
they're just so used to being hobos, they just never set foot inside of it, and it's so clean inside. They just sleep outside the fucking police station.
Just a bunch of benches.
Yeah, a bunch of carts lined up in a shopping corrals. That's their parking garage.
Just newspapers delicately sewn together as blankets.
Yeah,
Their riot helmets are water buckets on
They just get brooms and buckets.
Their tasers are like 9-volt batteries. They like okay.
Hobo cop.
The flashbangs are just when they just have an overcoat and they flash people and then have sex to distract them.
Tear gas and one of them lets a fart out in the room. Like something fucking shit. Trying to think of other cop things you could fucking like the parking enforcement officer. Like trying to think how that would work out, or fucking just anybody else in the police department.
Yeah, I love these sketch comedy spitball sessions we do. This is how the magic happens, folks. How the sausage is made.
Well, this is how it actually never happened, but
Yeah.
all the ideas are there. Go forward, internet.
Take it. Run with it. Just give me $5.
Or Google it. Probably somebody else already made it.
Yeah, it's basically Hobo with a shotgun, but as a parody.
Yeah.
A parody. Well, we watched a movie this week.
Yes.
Yes.
Our first Criterion/Filmstruck movie.
This is a feature of Andrew's idea.
Yeah.
Start watching the Criterion Collection movies. Because, they're quote-unquote important.
Uh-huh.
So.
I think this movie was important.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this week Akira Kurosawa's Throne of Blood.
Yeah, probably picked the wrong Kurosawa movie to start off with this, because it's probably his most challenging movie.
Okay.
Because his other stuff is probably more audience friendly.
Right.
Then this is kind of like there's a lot of weird kind of cultural differences and also intermingling, because it's a retelling of Macbeth.
Right.
There's also a lot of theater performance stuff here. So, because I was listening to audio commentary, and he's talking about how, like, a lot of theater in Japan, there's different versions, but you got kabuki with a lot of masks and shit like that, and then you have no, and this is more in the no style, which still has masks, but it's more about movement and things like that.
Okay.
Beyond that, I have no idea, because I don't know any shit about no, but that makes more of a sense now. Like,
Yeah, this seemed like a play, like a theater play in parts of it.
yeah.
I enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
I was kind of going into this like, well, I don't know what I'm going to think of this. But yeah, this is really cool. I mean, it was a black and white movie that was dark, and it looked dark, and demons are scary in Japan. The old Baba Yaga in a hut, whatever the Japanese version of that is. This was this was a good movie. And then the main guy just slowly going insane. I know that's part of Macbeth, but this guy's eyes get bigger as time goes on.
I like that guy's eyes, because he's fucking intense in this whole fucking movie.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I know he's like in almost every Kurosawa movie. So
I was gonna say, isn't he in
Shiro Mifune?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Although it's kind of disjointed in the beginning, because like they don't actually show like any of this fighting that's taking place. It's like just these smash cuts to like a different messenger like running up and falling to the ground. It's like Washiushi, he's taking back Fort 2. It's just like
yeah, this had kind of a strange. Yeah, there was some strange. Like everything was a fort.
Yeah.
And then like the forest castle, and then it's like, well, doesn't it? I didn't know if this was a specific time or a place, but it seemed to be more like a fantasy.
Yeah.
Almost. But yeah, it was. That's why one of the things I liked was like the people that ran and like banners were on their back.
Yeah.
That was cool looking.
Especially like it's flapping in the wind, and like they're just
yeah.
Yeah,
this movie really looked cool. I mean, at first, again, I was sort of like, I don't know about this Japanese movie. I know this guy's supposed to be a great director, but I started watching this, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I mean, I can see the DNA of the Macbeth, but I can also like it has its own vibe to it too.
Yeah.
And I like it when Japanese people are angry and they talk in a hurry and they're very loud. And then they go silent and they bow, and it's like, whoa, we're changing gears here pretty fast.
I like the king's helmet, where it's like this weird crescent moon that's just like haphazardly kind of stuck on him.
I did figure out what was going to happen, though. I did, because I didn't read anything about this movie when I watched it. I watched it a week ago, but when the lady in the woods was like, "Well, your castle will not fall unless the forest comes to you," and I immediately was like, oh, they're playing a word game here, so they're gonna like build structures with trees or something. And yeah, it's kind of what happened. But
that's pretty cool looking. Just like these trees and low fog, and he filmed it in slow motion, so it just looked really weird as shit. Like you don't know if like, oh, is this just some like.
Yeah, I wondered if it was supernatural at first. I was like, what?
Well, I was just kind of wondering about how it was filmed, because like the guy in the commentary is like, he's like, yeah, he wonders like, is that just a miniature or something? And they're like, no, that's a fucking real fucking trees, like full grown trees. They're just walking around with.
No, the whole analogy of like you won't lose a battle until the forest moves in on the castle. I was like, oh, okay, either that's gonna be the passage of time as the forest overtakes the castle, because they're talking about the castle rotting at the foundation and it's not powerful anymore and it's an old castle, and it's like, oh, that's just kind of euphemism for the power creep going out of the castle and everybody's abandoning it. I'm like, okay, the battle of time, everybody loses that battle. Like, but like there's a kind of a strange, like in the beginning when they're the evil demon or whatever in the forest when it has that spool of thread, and like you can't really tell what the demon's doing with the thread because he just keeps spinning it and spinning it, and the thread's going nowhere. It is like, is this like a play on thing where like this is supposed to be the thread of time? Like it just keeps going and going. It's infinite. There's no end to it. There's no.
Well, it's also like I think the commentary guy was talking about how it's like things being in circles and like how how the power struggle in the beginning becomes the same power struggle he has, and it just all circles back around and stuff like that.
Yeah, because how did you get, or did the commentary is like a button on the side or something like that?
Yeah, you just go to the audio function and you can switch to the commentary, which is really cool because nobody else does that. So
Okay,
Yeah.
I just watched the movie straight. I didn't watch it with anything else.
I switched on and off because like I wasn't sure if we were gonna have enough to say about it, so I figured like, well, we need to go into history about it to really say more about it. So I was kind of going to the audio commentary to try to get as much history as I could about it. But yeah, the audio commentary I was talking about, like, because there's the point where like they kill the king, or he kills the king, and he's like, well, I'll just adopt this guy, which I guess is more common in Japan to even like adopt an adult.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, then when I die, he can be king, and then everything will smooth out. Nobody will think I'm a traitor or something like that. Then that's when she says, like, I'm with child. It's like, well, that fucks everything up.
Was it just me, or like she always had like these black marks on the corners of her head, like it looked like she had horns, or like she was demonic in a way?
Kind of, yeah. It's like she had two sets of eyebrows. But then it gets even weirder because, and I guess it's a cultural thing too. Is at the end where she's like washing her hands, where she doesn't have any water. She just has a bowl. She was washing her hands. You can't get the blood off. She has black teeth in that scene.
Yeah, she has black teeth in every scene.
Oh, is it in every scene?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like back in that day, no, like that was your wedding ring. That's how you signified to other people that you were married. Is you dyed your teeth black.
Oh, really? I just thought she was supposed to be like a weird manipulative force.
That too.
Like everything's about her. Everything
Strange
about her is
characteristics.
like dark and evil, yeah. Because she's. I mean, I know the makeup style at the time for women too was like put pale makeup on and everything. Everybody's like super pale because that's how you show your royalty and you show your status.
Yeah.
As far as that goes as well, but at the same time, it's like she just seems so fucking evil and maniacal the whole movie.
Yeah.
I just figured that was part of her character.
But yeah, this is like early on was because they didn't really show the battles, and there's part where they go to the forest and then they come back to the king, and they're like, here you guys, here's some forts, you get some forts now, like for the battle. But they didn't show any battles, so I thought like, and the way like the guy was playing it was like he was just kind of like, this is weird. I thought they just like walked into a forest, walked out, accidentally won a battle, and then were given a fort. That's what I thought was going on at first. It's like, oh, they just did it. Like the battles were implied.
Yeah, they didn't film them all.
I didn't understand that at first. It's like, oh, this is weird.
Well, because they seem to have a lot of extras around and pretty good-looking armor in the background. Like you could have done some combat scenes.
I think they just saved it for the end. Because that's where they had like the most extras and stuff like that.
But at the time, I mean, that's a really good way to save money on the budget. Just
Yeah.
Just look at this huge battle. Oh wait, you didn't see it. Here's the outcome, though.
Well, I guess somebody else was supposed to direct it, and Kurosawa just wanted to produce. But then the budget started to skyrocket, and they're like, we need your name on this shit.
Yeah, this is getting expensive. They shot it at on Mount Fuji.
Yeah.
Like that's why it looks so like Lord of the Rings almost. Is like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that's like I said, this movie looked cool.
Yeah.
For a black and white movie, it like, and you think, of course, it's like dark, but it's like this movie looked dark and scary and strange things were happening.
Yeah.
Well, the actors were really good.
I like some of the cavern movements, and like some of the sets were really like almost remind me of like Kubrick movies in a way.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there's just kind of like subtle camera moves and stuff like that. And then there's just some jolting ones. The only thing that was weird was the wipes were weird.
The what?
The wipes, the wipe transition.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I guess if you pay attention, I guess that's used in a very specific way. It's just like the wipes are meant to indicate like a short transition of time, and then just regular cuts are meant to, or fade outs are just meant to indicate a long transition of time, something like that.
Oh, okay.
I actually like in the beginning when they're running through the forest and they're caught in their loop and they can't get out. Like, yeah, thought that was for 1957 was the movie, correct?
Yeah.
At least when it was
Yes.
released. I thought that was pretty impressive for like going through like all the action shots through the woods, as far as like following the horses and stuff like that. Considering like how heavy the cameras must have been, so I don't know if they had a clearing they had to go through the trees and actually shoot it at a rapid pace and stuff like that, or they sped it up, or what they.
It was a
did.
combination of real forest and they did some studio stuff, but they
Okay.
cut it together pretty well. Yeah, I guess those horses, like, not Hollywood trained horses. Those just like a real ass horse, and I guess the fucking what's his name?
Main actor,
Yeah, Mifune.
Mifune. Yeah.
I guess he was just a good horse rider. Is that how you say that? Yeah.
Horseman.
He's good at riding horses, but like you can there's like scenes the guy was talking about where like a movie like a Hollywood trained horse, like they'd have a scene like the horses would just stand still while like the people would talk to each other, but you notice like in scenes where he's like giving dialogue on the horse is like fucking trotting around and shit like that. That's not that's just the horse being a horse. That's not planned. And he's
Yeah.
he's kind of corralling the horse to be kind of like stay within a certain movement. But yeah, and then I also have that crazy horse and that part where like he runs over that dude. That wasn't planned. That horse actually just ran over that dude.
Yeah, and the director's like, just keep rolling, no matter what.
I like or at least I thought the scene where the old lord's son that rolls up to the castle gates with his advisor, like where they like ask for sanctuary because the main guy has killed his father and stuff like that supposedly, and they keep getting arrows shot at him. Like, this is a really lazy, just people throwing arrows at the dirt from the side of the camera, because it's like these archers are horrible, and then it takes them forever to even like score one or two hits, and I'm like, is this intentional because they're not wanting to hurt them and kill them, or is this just like, I don't
Just
know.
go away. Is that the one where they eventually just bring the coffin up to get inside the castle?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the guys look like they're wearing boxer shorts underneath because it looks just like print boxer shorts. From this.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the weird thing. Where I'm not, where it's like the samurai, you just kind of like these, I guess, American stuff where it gets here, which is like, it's like an all metal, like kind of like suit going on. But here it's like, hey, you're wearing pajamas, then you have some armor over your stuff.
And then some weird footies, like look like shoes that like look like wood stretched over canvas. It's like, what kind of shoe is that? But yeah, medieval Japan, not an island rich in metal, so they kind of had to make do. Yeah, that was a lot of cool stuff in this movie. I can see why it's a venerated movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of his whole catalog, but yeah, this is. But yeah, also the ending. That's just getting shot like 500 times with arrows.
It's like a pin cushion. I heard people were actually shooting arrows at him.
Yeah, there's like different things, but because I've heard like it was like, oh, it's a bamboo arrow, so it's just hollow in the middle, but then just has a blunt end, and then he just has a wood like block underneath, and they're just actually shooting it at the wood block.
Oh, well, that'd be.
I heard that, but I think what makes more sense is the other thing they're saying is like the arrows were really shot at him, but they were on guidelines, and they're like hollow, so there wasn't any chance, but they were actually fired from a bow.
Oh,
It just
okay.
was on a guideline.
See, I thought the end sequence where they fired like 500 arrows at him and barely managed to hit him half the time was just like, come on, quit leading him around, just shoot him already. It's like, you're just playing this out for time. You're not doing it. Because literally he would just like, it was almost like a Charlie Chaplin gag. Because he would just like run to one spot, then they'd shoot all the arrows in another spot.
And then he knocks him. He starts knocking him down.
And then they just shoot where he was at. And I'm like, God, you guys.
He's like, no! No!
And it was like, and before it was like, they're going to taste our arrows if they come closer. I'm like, well, if that's their accuracy, then we're going to taste the damn thing. But it's like, okay. And then everybody, like, I like how, though, when he gets shot in the throat and he still walks all the way down the stairs and the whole army's like backing away from him, like, holy shit, he's gonna kill us.
It's gonna kill all of us.
And it's like, wow, that was really dramatic and really cool, but at the same time it's like, come on, you guys are pussies. Like,
well, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, there's enough weird mythical stuff in there to like. Even he's afraid of it. He's just like, you don't know if he's drunk or he's actually seeing a ghost or what's going on. And he's like fucking fighting air. Like, what the hell's wrong with him? Is he drunk?
Swinging his sword at the invisible demon at the feast.
So there's enough of that shit going around for people could be afraid of mythical things. And then he reaches for a sword and just dies immediately. So it's like, oh, okay, I guess we're okay then.
but no, like, I like the whole, I mean, the way Nathan talked about, like, yeah, they're gonna figure out some way to, like, hey, they made towers or battering rams out of the forest, and that's the forest coming to the castle. But I like the whole, like, let's just cover everything in trees in advance so they can't see us, so it looks like a forest. And I was like, that's kind of weird how that played out, or whatever, as far as, like, that makes a lot of sense. But then, like, everything, the...
Oh yeah, well, all the birds just started coming at the castle.
Well, yeah, that didn't... I mean, yeah, I know they have the birds as the ill omen during the whole movie. But at the same time, like, that didn't really make a lot of sense. Like, it was,
no, it does. Well, sort of. Because they cut down all the trees. That's why all the birds left.
True.
Yeah, that was a cool scene because all of a sudden, like, wind starts blowing, and the bannermen who wear their banners on their back, they just start flapping, and then all the birds show up, and everyone stands up, and like, you know, and then the one guy's like, the guy laughs. The Mifune guy laughs a lot towards the end. He's just like going crazy, just like laughing at everything.
And that was another thing with all those birds. Again, not trained Hollywood birds, just a bunch of birds that gathered together and threw them towards the scene.
You could tell a lot of things thrown in the making of this movie. Surprised they didn't pick up a horse and throw it at some point. Toss it, see what happens.
But no, it's the second prophecy or the second telling of his future when he goes out in the woods again to find the evil spirit. I mean, the whole movie, from the beginning, from the First Lord makes the decision when all of his forts are under attack, and he's just like, we only have about 3 months of supplies. Oh, we'll just wait out a siege. And it's like, how do you take that lightly? You have an army. You know where the enemy's at. Attack them. At least then you have a chance not to just sit there and be starved out. And then, like Conlon said, the whole thing plays in a circle. So it's the same thing at the end of the movie. And the whole prophecy of, well, you will not lose a battle as long as the forest does not approach the castle. But then they also go into, like, okay, if you're going to kill people, fucking kill everybody. Make the rivers run fucking blood, pile up the bodies as high as mountains, and then you will be safe. So the whole premise of, you're never going to lose a battle if you fucking kill everybody and be offensive and deal with your problems, instead of sitting back and waiting for the forest or the other army to come to you, and then you'll lose. Like, if you would have attacked, I think he actually would have been better off. Instead, he sat there just like the other lord and did nothing.
Well, I mean, but it's based on Macbeth, you know.
Well, I know. I know what it's based on, so it's not like I can expect it to go anywhere else. But at the same time,
well, there's real world analogies to this. It's like, Mr. Hitler, are you sure you want to invade Russia? I mean, there's always these things we can look back on, like, why did they do that?
But another thing, like, it's also like he doesn't necessarily seem that ambitious towards killing lots of people. It's really his wife that's like that.
Yeah, and even at the end, she's like, God, all this blood on my hands, I can't get it off. And
yeah.
But I thought she was actually fucking dead at that point, because it goes to the whole miscarriage thing, and like, she's almost dead or whatever. So I was like, I assume she died. And then all of a sudden, she's alive at the end of the movie, and he looks really weirded out, like he's seeing a ghost, and so does like the handmaiden, where she just like looks kind of like, what the fuck's going on? And just like it's not like the reaction of like a crazy woman trying to wash her hands in no water and saying the blood's not coming off. Like,
no, it's on the inside.
Evil
No,
is in me.
I stole that from Maria Bamford.
oh.
No.
She's talking about like I just can't get clean. It's like no, it's on the inside.
But no, if this is his more advanced, like harder to get into thing, and I could appreciate it, then I'm looking forward to watching more of his movies because I've had Seven Samurai for like 3 years
Yeah.
now, and I've still never watched
Yeah,
it.
Seven Samurai is more of a western.
Yeah.
Well, even some people say that.
What's the Magnificent Seven?
Yeah, before that.
Based on that, right? Yeah.
But yeah, because that's the thing. Because I always talk about like I was talking to you about earlier, like how everyone talks about. It's like, oh, you can see like where like Lucas and Spielberg and Coppola, like how they just stole everything from Kurosawa.
Yeah, but Kurosawa
Stole it from like John Ford and all that shit. But yeah, it's recursive, so.
Everybody has influences and things that.
Yeah, or people came up with the same exact thing at the same time, and then people try to figure out who stole it from the other. It's like, well, no, they just happened at the same
The
time.
radio, isn't there some story about the radio that's like that? That might be an urban legend. But like when Marconi filed his patents, like 9 other people in the world were at the same level he was, filed his patent first. And,
Huh.
But I don't know if that's, you hear things like that and then you find out later, no, that's total bullshit. Nobody was even close.
Because there's like stuff in the commentary the guy was talking about where there's a lot of scenes that were like very similar to Spartacus, and he was talking like, well, did Kubrick like steal this from Kurosawa? And it's like, well, I don't know. He was saying like it was only commercially available in the same year that he filmed the movie, so like maybe not, but there could have been screenings, but you never really know.
Yeah, because it didn't come to the U.S. until like the 60s.
I'm gonna say like 63 or something like that.
Yeah. And even then, it wouldn't be like, it wasn't a blockbuster by any means.
No, I doubt any foreign movie. Like, foreign movies that weren't blockbusters till Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Really? Was it that long?
I can't think of any other, like, foreign movie that made, like, shit tons of money.
That's true.
Like, a foreign language movie. That
Oh, the
people
foreign language. Yeah, that's a little tough.
Not just made in another country movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, that's like every other movie's made in either Australia or Britain. Most of our TV's made in Canada. Technically foreign films.
Yeah.
But no, it's the only part I didn't like during it is anytime anybody sang, because I didn't think the dubbing and the lip syncing really met up really well with it. But that's really hard to do when there's no like into the sound. It just keeps going.
Was there sing? Well, I know there's that song in the beginning, but were there actually people singing that?
No, when they're doing the banquet. When,
Oh.
what's his face supposed to attend with the son? Like, there's a guy doing a dance and a song then, but also the demon at the beginning, when he's singing in his hut or whatever. And it's like, okay, can this sequence just end now? Because I find this really, really weird. And it's like the rest of the movie is good, and it actually meets up. Like, I think the reason the movie seems to hold up well still and seems to deliver its message still is it doesn't date itself, obviously, with anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it tells a pretty timeless story of people double crossing, and I mean, the son puts it best when he's talking to his father before the ill omen of the horse not wanting to be saddled, and it's like, you guys are just self-fulfilling your own prophecy by doing all this shit because you basically think it's supposed to happen, so you're just going along with it. He's like, no, you're not just a misbeliever. You're not.
I can't remember. There's lyrics to the song that they sing in the beginning and the end. It's like a proud warrior murdered by his ambitions.
Like, men are vain and they, take life for granted because death is long and all this other stuff. But it's like, okay, it's like everything in it. Like, even I think the banquet one was about the same, where it's like vain men and all this other stuff. So there's a lot of vanity talk in that movie, or at least during like the lessons and the songs. But at the same time, it's like you can see where, I mean, his whole torture thing while he's at the North Castle. It's like, well, God, I better kill him, or he's gonna kill me because somebody's gonna tattle on me, and then I'll be a traitor. And it's like, you just calm the fuck down. It's like you got the North Castle, man. It's like everything's going fine. For all you know, the Lord will die and you'll be the one voted in anyway. Just because you don't have to fucking kill him or stage your own revolt. Like that's like how about the third option where you just calmly sit the fuck down and don't do anything?
That would be a really weird movie, though.
Yeah, I
Just a
know.
guy kneeling there eating stuff and like, what are you doing? What are your ambitions? I'm waiting for the Lord to die. I will be
But-
elected.
Yeah, I mean that's what we complain about a lot of fiction, where it's like the crux of the entertainment is people making bad decisions.
Yeah.
Where it's like that's what we really appreciate about Breaking Bad. It's like it's bad decisions, but very logical thinking.
Follows a certain path of like, well, I have no choice but to do this.
But yeah, so yeah, I think this is more challenging of his. Well, he definitely has more challenging movies. Like, 'cause I think the last movie he did was like in color and was about dreams and.
Oh, Ran?
Was that his last? No, I think this one was just called Dreams, and it's like it's almost just like a Twilight Zone episode with no dialogue, like shot in a forest, and apparently it's about Hiroshima or some shit like that. Because you have Seven Samurai is kind of a western, and then you have Rashomon.
Yeah.
Which is it's basically its own category. Like I think there's another term for it, but like whenever there's a multi-narrative where basically everyone's lying, they always call it a Rashomon type story. So
Oh, it's a story told out of order, like the Pulp Fiction and stuff, where it's not in sequence, and then it's from
multiple narrators, but like
narratives.
somebody's always like they're all lying to some extent, but you just don't know what till the end of the movie. I think Basic was the last movie that did that.
Yeah, I think so. I remember. Yeah, but yeah, it's called Rashomon style, huh?
And then Hidden Fortress, which is the one I guess I wanted to do. I just remember, but Throne of Blood's such a cool fucking name. It's like, yeah, let's do Throne of Blood. Hidden Fortress is, I guess, the one where it's basically Star Wars. That's where Lucas got everything with Star Wars from.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll probably get into that at some point, but we'll see what movie we're gonna do next. Yeah.
Okay.
Kurosawa, one of the greatest directors of all time.
Yeah, I've read some kind of divisive commentary about him, though.
What's
Because
that?
some people are like, "Oh yeah, this guy's really good, and this is one of the best film directors of all time," and other people are like, he's overrated. He was a propagandist in World War II. Some of the Japanese feel like he just panders to Western audiences. Some of the Japanese criticism I read, which, I mean, I'm not taking any of this in. I'm just like reading it like, oh, I didn't know this was so divisive.
I mean, yeah, I can see those points.
Yeah.
But I just know, like,
He's also descended from like nobility in Japan. So some people say like, well, he's so far removed from everything. But
I just know that. Well, I know. Well, I mean, I just know how many people stole from him that
Yeah.
are considered great. So you usually don't steal from mediocrity. You steal from greatness.
I don't know, just important life.
Well,
lessons.
except for it's Quentin Tarantino. He's the only person that can steal from mediocrity and turn it into gold. He's the only person that can do
that's like his thing. Like, who's the latest washed up actor? Get him over here.
Well, also, it's just like, hey, what movie did you get your influence from? And it's some like weird exploitation movie that's completely terrible, but like he saw the golden gem in it and made it himself. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it's like, no, this is what they did right, and this is all what they did wrong, and I'm gonna correct it.
But yeah, this was a good movie. I'm glad I watched it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
No,
It has all the things about Japanese stuff that I think is cool. Lots of yelling, lots of bowing, lots of changing gears and dialogue.
lots of flapping flags and samurai armor.
Yep.
Yep.
Which
What
kinda-
now? Huh?
Which kind of made me want to go out and find samurai miniatures to paint.
Yeah.
Not really a market for them, apparently.
Oh, there isn't?
No.
Huh.
There's like one or two figurines, and that's pretty much it.
Huh.
And they're metal, mostly. Which
I
metal
figured there'd
sucks
be like
anyway.
some anime that has like some weird line of figures.
maybe, but just doing a quick Google search for
Cyberpunk Samurai.
samurai miniatures, there really wasn't anything.
Huh.
There is like a new board game called Rising Sun that's coming out that has. It's basically like you conquer feudal Japan using the gods and also armies, and it's kind of like Shogun meets a board game with gods. It looks like it has miniatures that have like armor and stuff you could possibly paint, but other than that, there's not really anything that I can find. So that was kind of saddening, but
it's weird. Somehow it makes a transition in my head interesting, in some sense. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I heard of a tabletop game, like role playing game, like D&D, like that, whatever you call that. That sounded kind of interesting. I think it's called like Wheel of Fire or something like that. It's a medieval tabletop game, but the only way you can get experience is by losing. Like you can keep winning and all that stuff like that, but your character won't grow unless they lose. Which I thought that was an interesting concept.
Well, because I've seen there's Starfinder, there's Pathfinder, there's friggin' Star Wars RPG, there's Conan RPG, there's a bunch of RPGs. So I'm surprised I haven't heard about that one. But
the Giant Bomb guy, or at least the Beastcast guys, for Christmas, because nobody was going to be there, they recorded a couple sessions that they did of a game called Apocalypse World. That was pretty good. That was pretty funny. They have a weird. They basically turned it into Escape from New York, but with what they call them, snake trains. So basically, you just take the worms from Dune, but they're made out of trains.
They draw them in with thumpers.
I can't remember. It's pretty fucking weird, but it's a pretty fun time though.
Huh.
That was Dan's first time, because Dan always was like, I don't get this D&D. He's like, hey, you can just do whatever you want. It doesn't make any sense. So
freedom. People don't want freedom. They want hard.
And they were trying to explain, like, no, the dungeon master, they kind of like direct things, and like, well, then you don't do anything. And it's like, well, no, he, and then like he figured out when he actually did it.
See, for me, it's RPGs. I mean, they have like, okay, there's the space sci-fi ones, there's medieval ones or whatever. It's not so much this topic matter that doesn't interest me. It's the fact that I lack any imagination anymore to find.
Oh, we just sit here and like spitball the first 2 acts of HoboCop.
I know, but to me that's completely different from me being like, I cast fireball on you and then you dance in flames. Like, I can't imagine that because I don't care enough about that. But doing stuff that seems funny or derogatory towards a certain facet of the population apparently is very stimulating to me.
It's very stimulating to everybody.
I mean, I was like, after I like listened to the podcast, I was like, yeah, I should do that. We should do that in the show. And then I realized, like, nah, we don't have enough people to do that. And then, never mind.
But no, the fire. Did you say it was Fire Wheel, or was it? What was the?
Yeah, it was like Wheel of Fire was like the medieval one, but and then Apocalypse World is the one they did for the Beastcast.
Okay, because I'll have to ask.
It's like an independent one.
Okay.
Because like I looked up online, and it's like black and white art, and it's like a very bare bones web page, and it's like just some dude in free time doing.
I guess I didn't know if there's like a actual like rule book out or anything else.
Yeah, they had you. It's like free. You can just like download it on print it out yourself if you want.
Because I was gonna ask the shop owner that I talk to on a regular basis tomorrow when I go in for a game if he heard about that or anybody plays that in the area. See if I can find a game of it or like sit in and watch it. Because it sounds like I like the whole aspect of like you have to learn from your losses kind of aspect of it, because that makes it different. Because everybody else, like if you lose, because like there's people that go to the shop and they just sit there for 3 hours with a character sheet making their character, and that's like the best part of the experience for them. And it's like, and every time they lose their character, they're so pissed because like I lost it and I spent all this time, and then that's the whole fucking point of that game is to build a character and lose it. So
well, there's a great kind of moment like that in the Masters of Doom book, which is about the creation of Doom, the video game, and pretty much just it in general. How they got their whole start, which is all weird. And they had a long-standing D&D game, And then there was like a mythical sword that they created. I want to say it's like the Doom. Oh no, it's actually what's that terrible Daikatana. That
Oh,
that was the mythical sword within their D&D game. And Romero decided like I want the Daikatana, and then like I think who's the other guy? The fucking nerdy guy that made the whole thing work. Carmack. So he's like the dungeon master, and then like he was telling him like, here's all the dangers that are gonna happen if you try to go for this thing and lose. So he goes for the thing and lose, and basically everybody dies and the world is taken over by evil. And that was the absolute end. They played this game for like 2 years, and they said that's it. Everybody's dead. Like and they kept to it. Those characters were dead. They never play that fucking game ever again.
Oh, that's pretty hardcore.
That's the madness part of the genius.
No, because there's so much fucking. If you like go to any like halfway decently run like tabletop or hobby shop, there's so much fucking shit to get into now.
Yeah.
There's a million RPG games, a million different board games. There's about to be a Star Wars tabletop strategy war game.
Yeah, sure, why not?
There's X-Wing, there's Armada, there's the RPGs, there's like the dungeon crawling miniature Star Wars thing.
I mean, they had
Imperial
like
Assault.
when I went to PAX, they had like there's a big like just open like conference room that was just full of like all that shit, like all people like cocking their wares and stuff like that. It was pretty cool.
No, I mean there's like literally anything you could ever want. You could be mechs that are owned by companies battling in a city for resources, and literally have mechs you built and painted on a tabletop rolling dice for resources. Or you could have ship and onshore combat between pirates on a huge fucking board. So you have water and land-based combat at the same time. And the ships are... I actually looked into it because I thought that was really cool. But then it's like, oh, the pirate ship's $500. Like, it's made of real wood.
Yeah.
And it looks really cool. And then it's like, oh, but then I have to find somebody else that also thinks that's cool. And also has disposable income and wants to do this.
I remember I went there and they had like every version of Catan you could possibly want.
Oh yeah, they have Game of Thrones Catan now for some reason.
And I really wanted that Star Trek Catan. I was like, I'm never gonna actually play this with anybody. So never mind. I'm not spending $45 on Star Trek Catan.
I'd play it with you.
Yeah, but it'd be like that one time.
You gotta make it just the one time. I mean, that's why I don't buy like certain board games. Like I've mostly bought like almost like at least half the Ticket to Rides that exist, because that's like the only game my wife will fucking play with me. Otherwise, like I have Carcassonne, I have one version of Catan, I have Game of Thrones Risk that I know I'm never gonna fucking play, but it's like Game of Thrones Risk and it's different because you can level up characters and buy forts and buy armies and shit. And it's like, oh cool, and it's based off the show and I can do all this stuff, and I have campaign missions I can do with the rule book. I'm never gonna fucking play it, but I own it. Like, spent $100
What about
on
Scythe?
it.
Do you know anyone who's into that?
Into what?
Scythe?
Scythe. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's actually really big here. As far as like the shop I go to, like he always sells out of his copies and his expansions right away every time he gets it in. I've never seen anybody play it still, but he just sells out of it.
What's the premise for that one?
It's kind of like if World War One never happened. It's sort of set in that era, and there's like steampunk type mechs, and there's a lot of cool artwork. It's like peasants almost in the 19th century, like running from mechs, and then somewhere there's werewolves. Like it's really odd, but it's cool looking.
Yeah, or from what I've seen of it, you have like different commanders, and they have different abilities for their mechs and what they can do per turn. Because you can like harvest resources or attack and move. Because it's like
I was just drawn to the artwork and the
because it's
imagination.
On the box cover art, like you see a mech in the distance and a bunch of people with threshers harvesting wheat by it.
Yeah, it's
strange. It's a big disparity between technology. But it seems really cool, and I've heard a lot of good things about it. I just haven't had a chance to play it. Because there is a board game night every Thursday night at the shop I go to, where literally he has like, I don't know, like 60 copies of games you can demo, and then anybody can bring in any game they want and they just play for like 4 or 5 hours till the shop closes. And it's pretty family friendly, but also just whatever game you want to bring in, you can play. I just haven't gone yet because my wife's never off on Thursday night before 8, so it'd be, I go there and I'm there for an hour and I get to leave. So
Yeah.
it doesn't make much sense.
All right. So, Throne of Blood. Get out there and watch it. Subscribe to the Criterion channel.
Or
Check-
Filmstruck.
Yeah,
Filmstruck or
Yeah,
whatever.
you know, Hulu used to have the Criterion Collection. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then apparently ended up here. So, but yeah, I really like some of their shit sucks. Their app constantly crashes on my Kindle Fire.
Yeah.
Their search engine. Well, I think it's working now, but it was like weird shit where like if you didn't spell the movie name exactly right, it wouldn't come up.
Would just kick you out. Like, we don't have this.
Yeah.
Is the app, is it mostly for tablets and cell phones, or can I do it on my smart TV where I can do Filmstruck on there?
If you can download apps from your smart TV, you should be able to.
Okay. Because I was going to look it up today, I just didn't have the time between doing a shit ton of stuff. So.
The other thing is like if we're all using the same password, you have to like if we're all watching the same movie, you're gonna have to like write down when you last watch it because it's gonna pick up on whoever last watched it. So
well,
keep that in
I
mind.
mean, how often do they add new stuff? I guess, or do they say like how often they go through their library to add and remove stuff?
It's kind of they do have like recently added stuff. They don't have the whole Criterion Collection on there, especially anything that's like a modern like movie company. Like their shit's not going to be on there, or it'll be on there for a limited time. Because they did have they had a No Country for Old Men on there like a week ago.
Yeah. 2 weeks of No Country for Old Men.
So they kind of do like this showing now stuff. Because I think they have one. I'm not sure if it's Criterion Collection, but it's like some weird like Antarctic horror movie with
Ron Perlman.
yeah.
That's pretty cool. I watched that.
Oh yeah, because I think there's only a week left to watch it because it's going away.
Yeah, it's kind of somber and weird and kind of stupid, but it's a cool movie on the way there. If you like Ron Perlman, it's a watch.
And I'm not sure if that one was Criterion Collection or if that was just one of the Filmstruck movies because they don't just do the Criterion, they also have just kind of a bunch of other movies too.
Is it just like from the feel of it, from looking through just genres, it seemed like it was art house indie type stuff.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is totally fine. There's plenty of good stuff from there. It's just like, oh, it's $11 a month. I'm like, well, technically I can afford it. So I'm like, well, if it works on my TV well enough, I might keep it for a while just to have another thing to fall back
Just
on.
use mine. I'm paid through.
No. I'm just
okay.
saying, it's like I'll see if I can get your password to work now.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, in the future, I might take it up because it's.
Well, I'm paid through the year, so yeah.
I thought the whole gimmick was we just try and watch everything really fast and.
Yeah, that too.
Because I'll hit my bandwidth cap.
Oh, that's right. Not on your mobile carrier.
Oh, I even have a bigger
well,
than them.
I was thinking like if it's kind of too much to ask, although I do binge watch TV series, but if there's like, if you think there's something like, I don't think we're going to pull like a half hour, even hour conversation, like out of this movie, like maybe we should watch like multiple movies that have like some thematic connection to it or something, but I don't know. We'll see.
We'll look into that. Well, anyway, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
It's Conlon.
Andrew?
Goodbye, America.